As Donald Trump returned to Washington, D.C. from Florida last night on Air Force One, he was confronted by reporters with questions about the economic turmoil brought on by his disastrous tariff policy. Trump was much more interested in bragging about a golf championship he won over the weekend rather than discussing the pain that he's brought on Americans, and actually snapped multiple times at reporters for daring to ask reasonable questions. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, we have several clips to play in this video. It's becoming a recurring habit of the increasingly mentally and emotionally unstable Donald Trump to lash out at reporters for daring to ask perfectly reasonable questions about stupid things he did. But I want to first start with this clip in which Trump is much more interested in bragging about this bullshit golf tournament that he won at his own club over the weekend, and also to point out that one of the reporters was really interested in talking about it too, rather than dealing with something of substance. Then we'll get into him lashing out at real reporters, asking real questions.
Mr. President, good. How are any questions?
How was the golf tournament?
Very good, because I won. It's good to win. You heard I won, right? Did you hear I won? Just to back it up, you were there, I won.
What's your handicap
I like
these
to win
days?
very low. I have a very low handicap. Okay.
So I just want to focus here again. We're going to play the other clip real quick, but any reporter with all the stuff that's going on, any reporter who asks a question like that should be relentlessly mocked for the rest of their lives. Okay, I guarantee you that if that had been President Biden, and under the same circumstances where the economy is in turmoil, markets are crashing as a direct consequence of the president's decisions, not just like shoot through sheer dumb cosmic luck, that no reporter would be asking such questions, not even like a friendly CNN or MSNBC reporter, nobody. They would be asking or trying to ask tough questions. So really pathetic stuff from a sycophantic reporter here. Whoever that was should be ashamed of themselves. But this is when real reporters start to step up and ask Trump tough but reasonable questions about his stupid decisions. He doesn't handle it well.
On the tariffs, is it a negotiation now? Bloomberg, sir. Is it a negotiation or rules of the road?
Go ahead, another question, please.
Sir, about TikTok.
She asked too many questions.
Sir, about TikTok.
He can't handle it. It's a perfectly reasonable question. Hey, are these tariffs? Are they a negotiation tool? What are you trying to get out of this? And he can't handle it. He's pissed. He's visibly pissed. How dare you ask such a perfectly reasonable question? Don't you dare ask me about tariffs. Stunning stuff, and betrays, again, not just only an instability of mind and emotion, but also perhaps even that he just doesn't know what the hell he's trying to accomplish here. Because, of course, his answers vary moment by moment by moment by moment. Sometimes, well, it's fentanyl. We have to curb fentanyl. That's why we're initiating these global tariffs. Then it's to curb unfair asymmetric trading practices, which he doesn't exactly demonstrate. Then it's okay to negotiate certain things. No, it's to punish and accomplish some sort of redress. Yes, they're here temporarily. No, they're going to be here permanently. He's obviously like bullshitting his way through this, syllable by syllable, second by second, not even minute by minute. He lashes out at another reporter for asking another question.
Is there pain in the market? At some point, you're unwilling to tolerate this idea of a Trump put. Is there a threshold?
I think your question is so stupid. I mean, I think it's I don't want anything to go down, but sometimes you have to take medicine to fix something. And we have such a horrible, we have been treated so badly by other countries because we had stupid leadership that allowed this to happen. They took our businesses, they took our money, they took our jobs, they moved it to Mexico, they moved it to Canada, they moved a lot of it to China, and it's not sustainable. We're not going to do it. Now we have hundreds of billions of dollars is pouring into our country on a monthly basis. It's pouring, it's already started because I put tariffs on. And eventually it's going to straighten out and our country will be solid and strong again.
It wasn't a stupid question. And again, she wasn't. This is the thing. This person wasn't being disrespectful. And now it actually occurs to me, just based on her voice, I think that all three clips might be from the same reporter. I think the same reporter who first stroked his ego by asking about his golf game, then asked these most recent questions, which again, it's pathetic that she felt the need to do that instead of just like out the gate. You don't have to. I understand trying not to disrespect the most powerful man on earth, even though I think Donald Trump is contemptible and doesn't deserve respect or decorum. I urge Democrats publicly to not use his title. Don't call him President Trump. Don't call him Mr. President. He doesn't refer to President Biden that way. Never did, even when Biden was president and Trump was merely a former president. Republican lawmakers rarely referred to President Biden by his title. Don't indulge the asymmetry because you look weak. Democrats, when you refer to him as the president, and it's almost like you're just offering your cheek to be slapped and disrespected. No, just respond in kind. Refer to him as Trump or dumbass or that orange idiot, whatever. Show him the contempt he deserves. I understand a reporter on Air Force One probably doesn't feel inclined to do that. That's okay. But you can ask a respectful but adversarial question. You don't have to butter him up first. But Trump says this is a stupid question. Well, how? No, again, she didn't say like you're delighting in the stock market turmoil, although there's some evidence that that's the case. She's asking how much are you willing to tolerate before you change course? Again, totally reasonable question for which he has no answer. Here's another clip.
With the tariffs that I've already instituted, they're already in place. Now, what's going to happen with the market, I can't tell you, but I can tell you our country has gotten a lot stronger. And eventually, it'll be a country like no other. It'll be the most dominant country economically in the world.
It is. The United States has been the most economically dominant country since the end of the Second World War, even during the height of the Cold War, right, where we were dealing with another superpower, the Soviet Union. America was still economically superior to the Soviet Union. They were the closest near peer that we had, but we were still the mightiest economy on Earth and have been for 80 years. What are you talking about, man? We were under Biden. We were under you in your first term as disastrously as you managed the economy then. What do you think is going to be accomplished here? Again, he can't articulate it in specific policy terms because he has no idea what the hell he's doing.
And we take their cars, Mercedes, Volkswagen, BMW. You know, we take their millions of cars. They take no cars. They don't take our farm product. They don't take anything. Europe's treated us very badly. We put a big tariff on Europe. They are coming to the table. They want to talk, but there's no talk unless they pay us a lot of money on a yearly basis. Number one for present, but also for past.
So again, with Trump, an inveterate liar, the likes of which we've seen rivaled only by Elon Musk, it's hard to say. Is it possible that the European Union or European countries are trying to negotiate with Trump? No, it's not impossible, right? I mean, again, the economy, the United States is the most powerful nation on earth, militarily and economically, and it's led by an insane person. I have no doubt that people are trying to talk him off the ledge. But number one, he could be lying. Number two, even if he's not lying and people are making overtures or reaching out to him, there's no guarantee that they're going to, accede to his demands. And you would easily argue that would be a terrible precedent because all that does is incentivize Trump or the next Republican or quite frankly, even the next Democrat to just start playing chicken with the global economy, knowing that people will fold. And I got to say, this is the other problem that other nations face. And it's a dilemma, okay? If they bend the knee to Trump on this, if they fold, they give meaningful concessions, not only will they train Republican successors of Trump to do what Trump has done, I guarantee you there are going to be some Democrats who learn that lesson too. There are going to be some Democratic presidents who go, you know what, EU, you know what, Canada, you know what, Mexico, all you've done is cuck the Democratic Party because here the Democratic Party believes in diplomacy and mutually beneficial trade arrangements. But if you're basically going to bend the knee for somebody who threatens you, well, that's quicker. It's certainly more convenient in the short term, and it will make that person look strong if they come out ahead. So the Democrats are eventually, a Democrat will turn to all these other, foreign economies and say, you better show us what benefit we get from not doing what Trump does. Basically, where being your friend actually gives us material benefit. Because if it all comes out in the wash, then we might start doing what Republicans do. Because it's less effortful, it takes it takes shorter time, like it doesn't take as long, and it has the benefit of making us look stronger because we can say, we didn't have to butter them up, we didn't have to negotiate, we didn't have to be best friends, we just had, we just swung it around and made them do whatever we wanted. And unfortunately, the American people tend to look at that sort of thing with strength. So that's the other thing that these other nations that Trump is bullying really have to consider as they negotiate the situation, that they don't send the wrong message to not only Republicans, but Democrats as well. Here's another clip.
You talked to a lot of leaders this weekend. Can you tell us, sir, were there any deals made?
I spoke to a lot of leaders, European, Asian, from all over the world. They're dying to make a deal. But I said, we're not going to have deficits with your country. We're not going to do that, because to me a deficit is a loss. We're going to have surpluses, or we're at worst going to be breaking even. But China would be the worst in the group, because the deficit is so big and it's not sustainable. And
again, there's nothing inherently wrong with a trade deficit with another country. Trump just doesn't grasp that, nor has he demonstrated how it is harmful. Kind of a follow-up question to this, Trump was asked, okay, you mentioned foreign leaders. Well, what about, the leaders of like U.S. industry? Have you talked to any of them?
Sir, have you talked to any tech leaders over the weekend about the tariffs?
yeah, I talked to the biggest in the world. I talked to the biggest of them all, many of them. But I've talked to, I would say 4 or 5 that are considered the biggest. They don't, you know what they said? We don't blame you.
Who did you talk to?
I don't want to say. I'll put it out. I may give it to you.
NVIDIA CEO?
I have to find out if they mind.
Okay, again, is it possible? Yes, he's the president of the United States. He's single-handedly destroying the economy. Is it possible that tech leaders are trying to get him to, or talk to him to calm him down? Yes, and we're going to do a video about some of the biggest Trump supporters in the private sector publicly panicking as a direct consequence of Trump's entirely predictable actions here. Here's another clip.
It's not new to me. I took in during my 4 years hundreds of billions of dollars from China. And we also took in a lot of money from other countries, but in particular China, because it was just getting started. And we had no inflation. Who had inflation was Biden. Biden had the worst inflation in the history of our country. I had no inflation. We had a...
So again, the conservative notion, or I shouldn't say that, the MAGA Republican notion is that Joe Biden single-handedly created inflation. Now, that's really stupid for a number of different reasons, because their logic is, well, he spent a ton of money. Well, Donald Trump spent more money than Joe Biden. So if your notion is just very crudely that printing more money generates inflation, well, then Donald Trump, by your own logic, had to contribute, especially since he actually passed 2 major COVID stimulus bills right at the end of his administration. And then, of course, President Biden followed with a third round of stimulus, only 1 for Biden, 2 under Trump, 1 under Biden, 3 total, the American Rescue Plan. But Donald Trump actually, in totality, generated more stimulus or injected more stimulus into the economy between those 2 Trump-signed bipartisan pieces of legislation than Biden did with his single one. And again, it was back to back to back. So if this idea that, okay, inflation is simply a product of the government printing money, well, then your guy contributed to it too, and we just happen to see a delay. Inflation doesn't happen overnight, number one. Number two, the reason we know Joe Biden didn't single-handedly create inflation is because inflation was a global phenomenon as a consequence of COVID-related economic fallout. And other nations, other advanced economies, G7 nations, China, like they were all hit with inflation too. And the United States under President Biden managed the inflation so much better. The rate of inflation fell at a higher rate or a faster rate than any other advanced economy on Earth. And our post-COVID recovery was stronger than any other economy on Earth, including advanced economies struggling with inflation, even led by conservative government. So again, Trump just has this all ass backwards. I do want to close on this one too, which is, speaking of President Biden, Trump trying to take a shot at President Biden's Chips and Science Act, which is revitalizing semiconductor manufacturing in this country. Trump has a different and stupid interpretation.
And as you know, because of the tariffs, we have $7 trillion already committed to be invested in the United States, building auto plants, building chip companies, and all sorts of companies are coming into our country at levels that we've never seen before. Biden had nothing coming in. This was a dead company. This was a dead country.
He said dead company and then corrected himself, dead country. Again, all the economic analyses about the Chips and Science Act are just not true. A simple Google search. So you have like the University of Michigan Economics Journal. They've discussed this and they've been debunking Trump's claims about the Chips and Science Act, begging him not to undo the Chips and Science Act as he has talked about before. As they report, early returns of the Chips and Science Act are promising, to say the least. Since implementation, over 80 semiconductor projects have been announced across 25 states, amounting to an estimated $450 billion of private sector investment. Brown. Most recently, TSMC announced an additional $100 billion investment spread over 3 new U.S.-based plants. Considering the initial $52 billion investment, the act has been incredibly successful at reeling in foreign investment into the semiconductor industry. This all begs the question, why would Trump want to disrupt a largely successful act? Although Trump may have underlying political motives to dismantle it, his main economic argument is that the $39 billion in subsidies is wasteful. In a very carrot-or-stick dilemma, Trump has concluded that the same investment incentivized by subsidization can be maintained through a signature tariff policy, an approach economists question. In his address to Congress, he maintained that we just want to protect our businesses and our people, and they will come because they don't have to pay tariffs they build in America. Is this the most likely outcome of tariff-based strategy? Initial research is doubtful. Trump has threatened to target semiconductor manufacturing hotspots, most notably Taiwan, with 100% tariffs in hopes that the difference in production costs are large enough for U.S. chip producers to bring jobs investments back home. This logic fails for 2 reasons. On the one hand, a targeted tariff may incentivize Taiwan-based companies to move to other foreign countries to produce semiconductors. Not only does this move hurt a key ally in Taiwan, there's also no guaranteed investment to the U.S. semiconductor industry. On the contrary, companies may even move to emerging U.S. production rivals in South Korea, and most notably China. China has been keen on attracting semiconductor investment with $47 billion subsidization policy, and U.S. tariffs will only expedite the process. And Republican states, red states, benefit immensely from the Bipartisan Chips and Science Act passed into law by President Biden, which is why many Republican senators are not co-signing Trump's remarks on it, his rhetoric, and his public statements to try to effectively neutralize the Chips and Science Act because they're benefiting from it. They are seeing the benefit of it, even though they don't want to publicly give President Biden the credit he deserves. So otherwise, listen, this was a disastrous showing by Trump here. Again, he wants to talk only about his bullshit golf championship as the American people suffer as a direct consequence of him. And when he is challenged by reporters with perfectly reasonable questions, he lashes out, he snaps, he loses it. He can't handle perfectly reasonable questions. This man is mentally and emotionally unraveling before our very eyes, and we are less than 3 months in to his presidency. But before, I almost did my initial pitch, but if anybody has any comments on this, I definitely want to hear it. Let me know what you think in the comments.